Thanks so much for listening in today. I'm Erika Ng, the founder of the Behavioral Health Collective podcast. If you're a parent of a child diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder or an educator working with a child with this diagnosis, chances are you've had some moments that are challenging for both you and that child. Today's guest, Amelia Bowler, understands this from firsthand experience. She's a behavior analyst and a parent of a child with an ODD diagnosis. Amelia has written an incredible book called A Parent's Guide to Oppositional Defiant Disorder. Although this book is specialized, it also has so much content that's applicable to really any child, regardless of having a diagnosis or not. Amelia is a very compassionate behavior analyst who's committed to sharing evidence-based practices while having a deep level of empathy for the challenges that parents and young people are going through. Amelia also has a new book coming out in 2022 that's geared towards teachers of students with an ODD diagnosis, so definitely stay tuned for that. Regardless of whether your child has this diagnosis or maybe an ADHD diagnosis or no diagnosis at all, I think Amelia's insights can certainly be helpful. We talk about some highlights from her book and where to start if you're finding yourself trapped in a cycle of challenging behaviors and challenging dynamics in your family. So without further ado, let's get to chatting with Amelia. So Amelia, could you just define for listeners what oppositional defiant disorder is, just so we're totally clear?
That is the question. Well, if your child has a diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder, that's it's a label that's given by a medical professional like a psychologist or a doctor. And it sounds like we know what it is. It sounds quite easy to understand because it's a disorder. So we assume that means we know there's something wrong with your child. And it says oppositional and defiant, which we know what that means. We assume that it means whatever you tell your child to do, your child will do the opposite.
Mm.
In reality, that's not a real thing. Just to be really blunt about it, there's no such thing as children who can't understand the word yes. But there are relationships that aren't working, and there are situations that are hard where people don't agree. So what we've done is we've taken a whole category of disagreeing with adults, and we've decided that this is a pathological behavior, and we're going to find a label for it. So obviously disagreeing with adults is something that all children will do. So that's a bit of a problem. There's a bit of an objective, there's a call that the physician or the psychologist has to make. Is this more difficult than your average child who's going to disagree with you a certain percentage of the time? We don't know what that percentage is. There is no such thing as a normal compliance rate because it'll change depending on the child's age, your family situation, the child's gender. Like, this is not a norm referenced set of behaviors. Unfortunately, we just don't have that. But if you as a parent and your care provider are under the impression that this is more difficult than usual, you may get this diagnosis. And if you look it up in the manual, it will give you a list of qualities that your child probably has. And if your child has some of them, around half, then that's enough to qualify.
Okay.
So it's not a clear answer at all. It's very subjective. It really depends on culture. And I really want to get that out there, because if a parent is told they're ordered, the very next thing they do is either blame their child or blame themselves. And that's not a productive place to start working from.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned in your book, there's a really powerful quote about most defiant and oppositional behavior happens when a child's environment collides with his or her abilities. And I love that you're reframing ODD to, think about it as there being some skill deficits there and a mismatch in, relationships and expectations, like with the environment and that child. And I think it's so important that you mention relationships in there. And it makes me think of school systems, and what I've heard so commonly is this understanding that a child with an ODD diagnosis wants to defy, wants to be bad. They want to get the teacher, get the aid. They want to behave in this oppositional manner. But I think you really counter that in your book to have a deeper understanding of what is actually going on for that child. and just thinking about how subjective and diverse this diagnosis can be, could you also just explain a little bit about the subtypes of ODD and what are some of those main like skill deficits or hallmarks of those subtypes?
Oh, sure. Um, yes. Well, I'm glad that we're not really, we can't really pin this down to just one type of child. But when you take a large group of these children and you lump them together, it's really hard to get any like clear correlations in the research. But what researchers have tried to do to sort this out a little bit, like maybe these kids aren't exactly the same. Let's see if we can, based on which criteria they match with, let's see if we can tease this out a little bit. So the subtypes, these might not be given to parents, but if you look at the symptoms, they sort of form three categories. One category is it's very emotional, it's very sensitive, it's very expressive, and there's lots of ups and downs. So you'll get outbursts and tears and aggression. The next category is more about conflict, but it's not as emotional. You'll have I hope you've met one of these kids because they're fine. They're fantastic. They always remind me of a sort of rhinoceros approach. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't care what you're saying. I'm just going to do it. And they're very cheerfully telling you that.
Yeah.
So it's not a stormy
Yeah.
conversation. It's just like very matter of fact.
Yep.
No. You don't understand. You don't want me to?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then the third group of symptoms is more about, this is maybe the hardest one for parents to deal with. It's, often when our kids or students are acting in a way that we don't like, traditionally we introduce some kind of disincentive, like a punishment or a consequence. When kids turn it around on us and they start punishing our behavior in very planned and specific ways, that's called vindictiveness in the research literature. It's a very hard thing to deal with. It's not common to every single child diagnosed with ODD, but it is something that is mentioned in the diagnosis. Is your child trying to get back at you?
Okay. Thank you for describing that. I think that's just helpful as we go through the following questions, just to understand kind of it's a wide diagnosis. There's so many different kids. And like you said, even one child, maybe, who's diagnosed with that like headstrong subtype is like probably quite different from the next kid with the same diagnosis. So I think that's really important for us to understand.
Yeah, and I really want to do a good job of answering your question. So I want to pick up that on the question that you asked me about skill deficits. I think skill deficits is a very compassionate approach, and I support it, and I'm glad that I read Dr. Ross Green's work on like lagging skills and unmet needs. I think it is really, really helpful. But I don't want to paint all children with this diagnosis as having a deficiency.
Sure.
Because when I'm speaking to parents, often, they feel like their kids are running rings around them. These kids are gifted. They're resisting. They're expressing. They may not wish to comply with everything that's being asked of them, or they may not be able to, and that's not always the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's such a good way to look at it, that again, it just reinforces that idea that it's such a wide subjective diagnosis, that so many kids are very different. Yeah, that's a really good point, that they don't all have skill deficits. Many of them are highly skilled.
One thing that really helped to change my perspective was the writing of Dr. Mona Delahooke. She published a book a year or two ago called Beyond Behaviors, and she described the concept of neuroception. It's based in polyvagal theory. And as a parent, that was another way, it was another lens for me to look at my child's behavior, because I, had all my traditional behavior training, and I was saying, okay, I'm looking at the contingencies, I'm analyzing the antecedents and the consequences, and this makes no sense to me. Why are we running into the same brick wall over and over again? And Mona Delahooke does a wonderful job of helping parents understand how stress and fear can flavor a situation and can make
Hmm.
our best intentions really backfire.
Hmm. Interesting. I think you really emphasize in the book of, the parent stepping back to kind of look at the situation, in a holistic manner, like what is going on there. And I
Mm,
and I just want to pick up what you were talking about earlier about relationship, and something you talk about is the coercive cycle in your book.
yeah.
So could you describe a bit of that coercion cycle there and how it can play into the breakdown of relationship? And because that is such a key part with ODD.
Yes, 100%. If you look at the research on ODD, this is maybe one of the things that we understand the best. Gerald Patterson introduced it in the 80s. Can you believe like that was the
Hmm.
80s was like 15 minutes ago. I remember
Yeah.
the 80s. So like a lot of this research, a lot of these definitions that we're throwing around now, they
Yeah.
weren't around when we were kids. Like our
Hmm.
experience,
Hmm.
we're naive to
Hmm.
all of this.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad that our kids can grow up in a world where we're actually asking these questions. Anyway,
Hmm.
so Gerald Patterson tried to describe what he was seeing in families that had a lot of conflict. And so what he saw was this:
Hmm.
a parent gives a direction, a child says no, or resists or ignores, and the parent does one of two things. You can insist and ask again and get louder, or you can retreat.
Hmm.
If the parent retreats, that sort of reinforces the child's resistance.
Hmm.
If the child backs down when the parent gets louder, that kind of reinforces the parent's forcefulness.
Hmm.
So, what's happening is the parent and the child are shaping each other's behavior.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes this is like a little feedback loop, like ignore, 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 explode,
Hmm.
and then the other side sort of quickly learns that to shape their behavior. Like I've talked to so many parents that have said, my kids just don't listen to me unless I yell. That would
Hmm.
be an example of the coercive cycle at work because the
Yeah.
parent's behavior has been shaped.
Yeah.
Like being nice doesn't work, so I
Yeah.
better be more forceful.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, as time goes on, the kids get more used to being yelled at, and so they get better at ignoring or they find better ways of avoiding. And
Yeah.
so the parent's behavior gets more forceful,
Hmm.
and it's really, really harmful because you have these two forces that are just very resourceful and you got lots of
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. Yeah.
And this is also a relationship that these are you have a long history.
Hmm.
When a child goes to school and meets like a new teacher and a new aide, that's a fresh start. The
Hmm.
parents have these histories following them around and they may find it
Yeah.
very hard to hit the reset button.
Hmm. That is a very clear example of that. Thank you for describing that. And I'm sure um, I think that the school example is great too, actually, because, we've seen students where, that relationship one year is like very challenging. And then September rolls around the following year. And sure, they've matured a bit over the summer potentially, but depending on that, next year, that new relationship with that new aide or new teacher can be such a good opportunity. So thanks for mentioning that to like relate it to the school setting too.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned as a BCBA that a lot of the typical behavior strategies, like you said, like analyzing antecedents, analyzing the consequences, and making a plan accordingly, that we were trained to use as BCBAs and are evidence based with most children, often do not work for a child with some sort of ODD falling in that realm with that OD
Mm.
diagnosis. So, what might be something that parents should look at first, or like really stop, like think about what do they need to stop doing
Mm.
that could be making things worse, actually, if they're kind of looking at it in more of a traditional approach?
Yeah, I'll try to give an example that's personal to me because
Mm.
there are things that I did with the best of intentions, like,
Mm.
oh, this, don't worry, I got this. I read it in a book,
Mm.
that I really cringe when I look back on.
Mm.
And so, in general, I would say to parents, like, it's really time that we rethink the always follow through rule.
Mm.
It is not worth always following through.
Mm.
This will, this rule will take you to the edge and sometimes beyond
Mm.
the line of abuse.
Mm.
Yeah, I still remember one day where my child wouldn't brush his teeth. And so, the BCBA training kicks in and like, all right, we're going to do a prompt hierarchy. We use gestural prompt, we use a partial physical prompt. And by the time we got to full physical prompt, we had a child who was in extreme distress
Mm-hmm.
because he feels powerless in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back and I think, like, why did I feel like I had to do that?
Mm-hmm.
It was not, I really believed that if I like powered through, if I got through that horrible resistance, that the next time would be easier. And that may not be the case. It may be that there's a trust broken
Mm-hmm.
the more you try to force, and that the
Mm-hmm.
resistance on the other side grows, and there's the risk of that coercive circle or
Mm-hmm.
cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that personal example. I'm sure that would resonate with a lot of parents. And you do put a significant focus on parents really thinking about self-reflection and, how am I interacting with my child? And that first part of the book is really about understanding ODD, but how parents need to be the first to make some changes by highlighting kind of that chicken and egg cycle between challenging behavior and parenting style. I think you mentioned that it's actually easier for the child to shape the parent's behavior than the parent to shape the child's behavior. There's, I think, a
Yeah,
research study you mentioned.
Russell
Yeah.
Barkley's work. He was one of the first people to really look at ADHD in a serious clinical way. And ADHD tends to overlap a lot with ODD. So he observed kids interacting with their parents
Mm,
while on stimulant meds and while not on stimulant meds. And it was amazing how much the parents' behavior changed based on what the child was doing.
mm,
Much less negative feedback, um, because I guess our kids, we're very, very sensitive to our kids' behavior, and we're
mm,
very sensitive to our own sort of beliefs and habits. And it's hard, I think, to use fresh eyes and look at what's going on with your
mm,
child without bringing
mm.
everything that we've learned and everything we're feeling that day.
Yeah. Hmm. Would you say then, if a parent is kind of maybe even right now listening to this and thinking like, okay, we're kind of in this coercive cycle.
Mm.
I know you really highlight that importance of modeling emotional regulation for their child. What might be a few quick wins, I guess you could say, or a few changes that a parent could make right away to kind of give them those bang for their buck, to help them kind of get to a space where they can do that reflection and like zoom out a bit.
Okay. Well, we could start with something that might sound really stupid, but it's one of my favorite things to tell myself. It's don't just do something, stand there.
Hmm.
Like when we are watching something happen and we're feeling offended and we
Hmm.
feel, oh, this is not okay. This cannot be tolerated. I have to do
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
The something that we choose to do is not always what we wish we had done.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
something is not always appropriate or thought out or helpful, but it feels like I have to respond to this
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
And so we almost go on automatic pilot. And if we can train ourselves to just pause
Hmm.
and say, you know what, this is maybe like if it's a situation where somebody is in actual danger, I definitely don't want anyone to be physically injured
Sure.
by
Yeah.
not acting.
Hmm.
But let's say someone has just called you a very outrageous name, and you remember all the times that, your parents responded to you when they were offended by your
Hmm.
behavior, and you say, I'm going to deal with this right now.
Hmm.
That's probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
It's probably when you're not doing your very best parenting. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do something right now, my best advice is that it's amazing what will change 5 minutes from now. What you think life is going to be like in 5 minutes
Hmm.
is, it's very, very often wrong.
Hmm.
Honestly, there's very
Yeah.
little harm that can come from just taking a minute and thinking, like, what
Yeah.
was that? How
Yeah.
am I feeling about that?
Hmm.
Sometimes not saying anything is really your most powerful weapon.
That is awesome. So simple and yet easy to remember. I like that phrase of instead
Don't
of
just do
doing,
something, stand
yeah,
there.
that's so great. Don't just do something, stand there. That's wisdom. Thank you for that. Now, once a parent has been able to focus maybe on their own emotional regulation, like this, don't just do something, stand there, and maybe working on some modeling as well for their child. What are one or two things that might be a good next step to building their relationship with their child, to like rebuilding the relationship with their child?
Hmm. Um, Gosh, I think one thing that's really hard to do as a parent is to set aside a lot. We make a lot of assumptions and we have a lot of beliefs that are not necessarily true. And even the things our kids tell us in the moment are
Hmm.
not necessarily true. When they say, I hate you,
Yeah.
you don't like write it down like, okay, he now hates me, and that's a
Hmm.
fact. That's
Hmm.
not necessarily a fact. Like, not
Hmm.
everything is really important information.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's very hard sometimes to take the the information that we're getting and sort it out. Like, this is
Hmm.
gold. This is a nugget right here. I can really use this.
Hmm.
As opposed to, this is confusing or this is upsetting
Hmm.
and it's not telling me anything.
Hmm.
Um, but to really rebuild our relationship with the kids, we do have to be ready to set aside the things that offend us and the things that
Hmm.
we're hurt by, because our kids can't heal those wounds, that those sore spots. They cannot
Hmm.
compensate for the things that we didn't get
Hmm.
earlier in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can't expect our kids to go through like a reconciliation there. We really have to be able to do that work ourselves and
Hmm.
say, you know what, fresh start.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hi, can we
Hmm.
sit together?
Yeah. Yeah. Simple
So
yet
coming
meaningful.
coming to the table like with clean hands, would be, the I think, the first step to reconnecting. I think in our house we call it bringing back the love.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was reminding my kids this morning, like, I think the love's always there. It's just sometimes covered up and I can't see it.
Hmm.
But like the sun goes behind a cloud, it's still there.
Hmm.
I need to remember that my love for my kids and their love for me is always there.
Hmm. That's really beautiful and meaningful. And again, yeah, simple yet profound. Now, if some families are finding themselves, they've maybe even like read your book, tried a couple things, and they're still really struggling, I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about your consultation services. Um, kind of what does that system look like now? If a family hasn't received behavior consultation from a behavior analyst before,
Mm-hmm.
what might that look like? And at what point maybe would a family consider getting professional help versus,
Sure.
reading your book or seeking out similar resources?
Hmm. Okay. Well, I want to say right off the bat that the process that I go through, it's this is going to be a very general description. Like, I
Sure.
definitely want to be sensitive to people depending on their background, depending on their
Mm.
culture.
Hmm.
Like, not every person is going to be able to give me all the information that I'm looking for by filling out a form
For
or by
sure.
like talking, like
Yeah.
explaining everything on the first day. So this is very approximate.
Mm.
But what I like to do is I'll send people a link and I'll ask them a few questions so that they can just kind of take it at their own pace. Like, fill me in on a few things. Where have you been with this? Like, what sort of other services have you looked at? What are the situations that are really bothering you the most? Then we schedule a half an hour phone call. And sometimes I get carried away and it's longer, but it's free. It's just
Mm.
because I want to get a sense of, is this somebody that I think I can help? And I want
Mm.
the family to get a sense of what would it look like to ask for help and to what would we do together.
Mm.
I can't ask for consent to treat somebody if they don't know me, so there's a little get
Mm.
to know you process. After that, because of COVID, it's really been primarily remote, like phone based, even for people who live locally. In the past, I have really enjoyed visiting people's homes and just watching how things play out and saying hello to the kids and asking their opinion on things
Mm.
and modeling ways of speaking to kids when we're trying to work through a problem. That can be really useful. If I don't have that, that's okay, because sometimes as parents, there's things you want to say that you
Mm.
don't want your kids to hear.
Sure. Yeah.
So we spend time on the phone. We try to look at specific situations, what led up to it, And if I can think of like a quick, either here's a step that you may want to take that may just prevent this altogether. I
Mm-hmm.
will definitely throw that out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if I don't understand why it's happening, then the next step would be, let's see if we can figure out what these variables are. What if you did this differently? Would it still happen? Like sometimes there's an investigative process that we
Mm-hmm.
go through before we try to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that make
And
sense?
yeah, absolutely. I think that's really helpful to make clear to families that it's very much tailored to their specific needs. And I think to even just understand that it's like a very conversational, relational
Hmm.
situation to
Mm-hmm.
use professional services. How long would you say you would typically work with a family for?
Um, some families, I think, want to work long term. I
Mm,
try to work myself out of a job as soon as
yeah,
possible, and I'm always
sure.
delighted if we can
Yeah,
solve the problem in the first 45 minutes. That's great.
yeah, yeah.
But I think because the work that we do is so situational, I think we just work on one little piece at a time. And over
Mm,
time, what I'd like to do is build up a set of skills for the parent that they can keep using in these as new situations pop
mm-hmm,
up. So
mm-hmm,
we start with the specific and then we move to the general.
mm,
When parents have a bit more confidence, like I
mm-hmm,
love cheerleading. I love telling parents what they do right.
mm-hmm, yeah.
They tend to not call me for a while, and then maybe 8 months down the line they'll say, you know what, we're really having this issue, can you weigh in on it? And that's
Mm,
great. It can be a very casual relationship.
mm. Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you for outlining that. Okay, so kind of just moving into a wrap up here. If there was one thing you could recommend to families that are struggling, maybe with a new diagnosis
Hmm.
for their child with ODD, what would be a recommendation? I mean, you've
Mm.
already had a lot of nuggets in this conversation, but what would be like the number one thing that you would say from your own personal and professional experience?
I would say that there are a couple things that will get in your way. Um, and that's number one, shame. And
Mm,
number two, expectations. Like my child should be a certain way. I should be able to
mm,
do this. And I guess the shame and expectations go hand in hand.
mm,
Um, Instead, I I would say that the way to move forward really starts with acceptance. Like, this is where
mm,
I'm at. This is where this kid is at. This is how it's affecting me right now.
mm,
But but I know that life is unpredictable and that things can change, and I'm open to that. I'm open to
mm,
things
mm,
changing. The worst thing we can do is just saying, "Well, I'm like this and he's like this and it'll never work and he's pathological," and
mm,
that's
mm,
not going to get us anywhere.
mm. Okay.
We have to explore
Yeah.
some possibilities and maybe just look with some compassion on the way things
Hmm.
are right now for you and for your kid.
Yeah. I'm glad you just use that word compassion because I wanted to say that I think your approach in the book is so clearly compassionate for both the child and the parent, which is just so amazing and I think makes that so accessible to families.
I'm
And
glad you
just
think so.
acknowledging that there, will be feelings of shame or, should my child should be this way. So yeah, thank you for that. I just think it's such an accessible thing for families.
Hooray.
Aside from your book, could you share any other resources that are helpful for families that might be struggling with an ODD
Yes,
diagnosis?
yes. Well, if you like the way I say things, you can you can go to my website. It's
Mm-hmm.
ameliabehavior.com, which is behavior spelled the Canadian way, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just my name, ameliabowler.com, should get you
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
I have another book coming out next spring. It's specifically
Exciting.
for teachers.
Great.
So you may put that in your child's backpack.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, that's so funny. That's a great idea.
um, there are some names of people that have really helped to shape my point of view. And one of them that we haven't mentioned yet is Dr. John Gottman. He's a wonderful
Mm,
psychologist, and he wrote about building kids' emotional intelligence.
mm,
So he is definitely a person that I would look up because he has a nice way of really looking at the world, as a psychologist in a very analytical way, but in a
mm,
very practical way and in a very
mm.
compassionate way. So yeah, he's one to look up for sure, John
Okay.
Gottman.
Fantastic. Well, I will put both your book and the link to John Gottman in the show notes. So thank you for
Hooray.
that. It was so great hearing from you, Amelia. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, both as a parent and as a professional and a behavior analyst who's working with this really unique population who I think is quite misunderstood and is very diverse. It's a broad group of kids who are
Absolutely.
so individual and unique. So you mentioned your website, so that's great. I will put all of this in the show notes. You mentioned your book coming up. Do you have anything else you wanted to mention to listeners, like any workshops coming up or any other new things for you?
Things have been a little bit quiet. If you are a clinician, I would recommend Googling my name and we can. There's a course that you can take
Oh, awesome.
that will sort of walk you through all of the deeper, more BCBA type stuff.
Okay,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, or you know what? I wouldn't mind just hearing from people if they have questions.
Yeah,
You can
okay.
contact me directly. I also paint and draw.
Hmm.
So if you find me on Instagram, you'll see some of the things that I think are important, plus some watercolor paintings.
Yeah, I
Yay!
love your art. Yeah, so
Thanks.
beautiful. That's fantastic. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for all of that. And yeah, enjoy your afternoon. Thank you again, Amelia.
Take care.
Take
Thanks.
care. The comments and views expressed in this podcast do not constitute or replace contractual behavior analytic consultation or professional advice. Views expressed are solely the perspective of the speaker and do not represent the views or position of their colleagues, employer, or other associates. Please seek out a behavior analyst through the BACB website if you would like to receive further behavior consultation. Until next time, take care.